Hi, and welcome to Color Your Home Happy. I'm Justine, founder and creative mind behind Rainbow Shaker, a colorful interior design studio in London. My goal is to spread joy and happiness through the design of cheerful interiors. If, like me, you think that we need a colorful bubble to escape the daily gloom, then this podcast is definitely for you. Each episode, I will be welcoming well-known guests from various colorful backgrounds. You won't find us speaking about the right way to use colors. In this podcast, I want to help you trust your intuition and give you all the confidence you need when designing interiors full of dopamine. Hi everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Color Your Home Happy. I'm Justine, your host and exuberant interior designer at Rainbow Shaker. Today we will talk about bringing more colors into your kitchen, talking about colorful kitchen projects and makeover with two of the founders of a very creative and sustainable kitchen maker studio, Pluck Kitchens. Welcome, George Glasier and Leila Touwen.
Thanks, Justine. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Thank you. Very well.
Thank you for welcoming me into your studio, which is amazing. Very colorful.
Yes, it is.
So tell us a bit about Pluck Kitchens and about how it came to life.
There's three of us, George, Lloyd, my husband. We launched in 2016 with a curated selection of woods and colours. Mm-hmm. We had 7 colours and that collection has now grown. But we are all about bringing colour into kitchens and that the combinations that we help people create.
We found that people only use single colours, or there wasn't much exploration into multiple colours, using woods and materials and everything else, and spending a bit more time and looking into that in more depth to create a sort of a beautiful palette within each kitchen that reflected the owner's sort of personalities and their traits was a really important thing for us. I mean, it's starting with a very practical kitchen at its core, but then building on that to make it very personal, very individual to those people and how they work, live and socialize.
I think, and inadvertently, we didn't know it at the time, but we were bringing a fresh approach to kitchen design that I think is still evolving. For us, it's about how people use their kitchens. There's a big change that relates to technology, essentially. So people, how we use our phones and how we use our laptops means that we sit in kitchens in a different way. It's not just about cooking. It's not just about
relaxing and socializing.
Yeah. And I think Pluck coincided with that change and that evolved, and people's attitude to colour and what they wanted their cabinetry to look like is part of that.
And what's your background to both of you?
Got to go first.
I used to be a journalist in news, so something totally different. But I've always had an interest in interiors. And I mean, from when I was young, I was painting my bedroom different colours and experimenting like rag painting in the 80s or whatever was going on then. Yeah, some terrible things. But I mean, to be honest, I didn't think I would be here when I was a news journalist. It was a totally different
field.
Yeah, totally different. I mean, I've applied a lot of what I learnt through that part of my career to this. My path it's not a typical one.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, me, I guess, was slightly more typical. I studied design. I did a degree in design at Brighton University, with a big background in furniture making. And that kind of led to making of everything, but also proportion, space and everything else. So it's kind of led very sort of beautifully into sort of designing kitchens and being aware of those parameters that were so important within a space.
And the other Pluck co-founder, who's George's friend, my husband, he has also got a background in design, but in Cape Town, he's industrial design.
He was industrial.
Yeah, but then with George has been making furniture for years. So it's quite an interesting dynamic between us.
It's a great dynamic, I think, because it brings a lot of different perspectives on stuff. And you can go down a route of being like insanely practical or insanely sort of one very important element, but you don't consider the rest. And as a trio, it allows you to see every sort of direction of that design and how that should work and how it fits.
How would you say that the sustainability comes into Pluck Kitchens?
Again, I think that was 2016. It was an inadvertent commitment to sustainability by the materials we were using, because we've always put good quality, which are often normally sustainable materials, above everything, like at the forefront of what we do, just because we don't want to work with stuff that's cheap and badly made and doesn't last.
And all of those processes that we use means that we use less material. We spend a lot of time making sure that we maximize the amount, so we limit waste.
Yeah, and last year we launched our eco colours, which was a really big thing for us. So it's 8 colours that are carbon neutral. They're groundbreaking technology that's not from us. It's from Phoenix.
Yes.
Yeah, Harper and Phoenix.
A lot of people tend to think that sustainable means that you have to have simpler designs, which means less colors. But instead, you're showing that you can have still colors that are completely eco-friendly.
Yeah, exactly. One thinks people might think wood. That's how I be sustainable. That's the manifestation of sustainability. But actually, those colors are a powerful symbol. They show us that you can have color and it be sustainable, which is a really lovely thing.
Yes, I don't think we've compromised on the color or the choice of color by using these materials. I think they bring their own color independently of the sustainable nature, and durability is obviously very important. These carry that with them.
Yeah.
And we never limit the amount of colors in a kitchen. I mean, the more colors, the more it has to, you have to work to really make it cohesive and understood, and not just a sort of a bunch of samples that have been put into a room. But if, as soon as you introduce that, like, well, you can have 2 colors and this, and it starts to sort of change the process, and you feel limited by it, I think. So if you can, you can have spots of color and color pops here and there, it really becomes very unique to that person, but also is a way of exploring more colors within their kitchen.
Yeah. And how did you come up with the colors you have right now?
The current core collection has 16 colors in it, some of which were our launch colors. So it started out as 7, it's now 16. It's felt really organic. It's actually quite kind of difficult.
Because it is also a mix of our 3 opinions within a color palette.
Yeah.
That sort of sows the seeds of where those colors are going. But then also, because it's quite a tight curated number, you want those colors to work really well with each other. So you get, again, you get this bit of a structure of like, you don't have sort of outliers that are clashing and sort of are really jarring within that. But also that there's needs and wants for colors within that palette as well.
And it needs to appeal to a very broad range. So we picked within that, and also within the eco colours, hopefully there is, it's such a terrible phrase, but something for everyone, or anyone who's got, depending on their level of confidence. And
I think there's a way in for everyone.
There's a way in, yeah. We've got really really classic colours, navy blues and stuff, and then a pink range that's quite unusual, which actually our pinks, our Ritzy, our Ruskin Blossom, and our Raspberry, now we've launched that, are so popular. The pink kitchens. It's not.
It's
very much.
I guess it's such a welcoming, calming,
nurturing.
Yeah.
But people come with quite strong opinions about not liking pink.
Well, it's funny. Our colour Ruskin Blossom, which is one that we launched with, was kind of written off as millennial pink at one stage. But actually, it stood the test of time. And it's a colour that's been used, I think, for hundreds of years in interiors and what people wear and stuff. But it's defied that millennial tag. And actually, it's just so popular.
Quarter of a century later.
It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's nice it's gone that far, because the people were sort of turned off by it because of its status of being millennial pink.
Yeah.
Whereas again, it's that thing of like, don't predict or follow trends. It's like, if you like that pink, use it, because you'll still love it when it's not being talked about, or when it's gone.
So versatile, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can combine it with yellow. It's going to have this pop. You can combine it with
green, the contrasting. But I also feel like now people are looking at neutrals and how you use neutrals with a little bit of backup colour, a little pop of colour. We launched last year. Was it last year? Eccles, which is a cashmere beigey, really soft, lovely off-white hue, and that has been really popular.
It's got nice pinks and undertones in it as well. A strand of pink goes through a lot of our kitchens, because it is very good with the yellows, it is very good with the greens. It has a lot of, I was going to say, a lot of friends in terms of its colours. It mates well with these things. Some people use it as a neutral, as a the sort of the paler pinks. And if you use it with a bright colour, it pushes that colour back a bit. But if you're doing it the other way around, it becomes very sort of strong and in focus.
And it's gorgeous with our woods as well, isn't it?
Yes, and pink pulls out the tone, especially in the cherry and the London plain. It's very...
And what's the quirkiest colour combination you've made?
I think there was 6 colours, including they painted the room to colour match one of our colours as well. So it had a lot of yellows, pinks, green, and one more color in there as well. It worked really well. I think it takes time to understand a rationale for where those colors sit within the space. And if you just sort of dot them around, it always looks a bit dotted around and a sort of a bit of an afterthought. So kind of creating a narrative within those colors and how they interact with each other and why they should be in those places was really part of the fun. It was a really nice project to do, because they were so open to have this many colors in a kitchen, but so many options and so many ways of trying it. And we did establish a kind of a very good story of where those colors sat and how they interacted with each other.
Are you both attracted to colors?
Yes, my home is colourful. I was thinking about this coming up to this podcast, and I grew up in a kitchen. It's got a yellow ceiling. It's got pink walls. In fact, it's a bit like your outfit today. Pink walls and blue and green woodwork. And that was my kitchen that I grew up in. So I think colour has been something that's been, you don't realise these things to you, but I was just thinking about it. I think I'm attracted to colour because it's something that I grew up with, and it's very used casually. My parents, it's not a thing. This is just how they want to live. So my home is colourful. Yeah, it is. It's not, I have to say, it's not, there's some muted stuff too, but colour and pattern are really important to me.
I would say, interestingly, my upbringing was probably less colour, and that's allowed me through what I've done through my life is to be allowed to use more colour. Not that we were stopped, but like it was quite simple finishes, I guess, plainer colours, no kind of deep in thought into like having bright colours or pattern or anything else. And as a reaction to that, like explored more colour, being more open to it, being able to know that you can change it, make it your own, and add to that, which has led me to then having incredibly, I've got a bright green kitchen and a bright yellow living room. So those colors have always sort of have emerged from that, I think.
I think through life also, I feel like your relationship to color and your use of it changes as you change. I mean, I certainly feel that I think you get more confident in who you are and what you like. And also when you're younger, you do perhaps experiment more without realizing. So I look back now on some of the things I did in my first flat and I'm appalled by it, but actually it was really important. I know, but I was really proud of the things that I was living with.
Yeah.
But it's a really important evolution and a process. Yeah. And you make mistakes and you look back. It's like with your hairstyle. It's like anything, it's an expression of you at the time.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, Mode. And you don't realize at the time how that is influencing you in the future. And I think you're right. As you do get older, you get more confident with what you like and know, and being able to apply that becomes easier or more just sort of commonplace.
But with kitchen colour, I think when you're at the stage where you're committing to a bespoke kitchen, you will be in a place where you are more confident.
Yes. Yeah.
Our clients tend to be slightly like they're not young 20s.
Yeah. Because you can't paint it all over again, like a wall.
Yeah, no, exactly. They come with that kind of mindset and that frame already.
And have you seen kind of a change in their mood and in their way of living after having done their kitchen, bringing more colors into the
I mean, the feedback that we get from people, but that's tied up with the function as well, because when, if they get a Pluck kitchen, they'll also probably get their layout will be completely reconfigured.
Yeah, there's definitely two parts to it.
Yeah.
But they often separate them out handily for us, where like they obviously the practicality is a really good thing, but they say how much joy it brings them to walk into these spaces.
Joy is a word
that gets used a lot, I think, when people have finished and come and be like, oh my God, every day I come down and it's like, whether it's bright yellow or not so bright, it doesn't, having color doesn't mean they always have to be super bright, but it's such a part of them, and it really makes them happy and does bring that joy.
Yeah.
And as a French, I can say that kitchen is like the center of a home. So
Absolutely.
For me, it's like the most social place of a home, and it's where everybody connects.
Yes.
And it's the kind of the heart of the home.
It is, absolutely. The evolution of the kitchen and how it's used is I find it very interesting, reflecting how people changing their relationship to it. Like it always has been the heart of the home, but I feel like historically it'd be the heart of the home because it's where the food is produced. Whereas now I think that it's a social space too that people come into, and it's not just someone cooking, it's sitting and gathering and,
and not being conscious that you're there. It's where everyone gravitates towards, everyone ends up, because it's where everyone feels most comfortable.
Yeah, it's not like this is very old fashioned, be like, this is mum's space, like, where she cooks. Like, I don't feel it's like that anymore. But everyone loves cooking now.
Yes.
I have always issue waking up in the morning. So for me, I need my cup of tea and then my colourful kitchen to just give me
literally to lift you. Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't wake up.
Yeah. It's wow. We did a kitchen that's all yellow recently, our Hollingbourne yellow. I think maybe you need to sit in that kitchen.
Yes, it will.
Bathing in
revive you.
Yeah. But for some people that yellow would be overwhelming, and for some people it's a beautiful a sunshine hue that bathes them in a warm glow. Like, it really is
so subjective.
Yeah. And I think part of when you're designing stuff for people is not to push yourself, push your own understanding of colour onto them. Like, you guide them with expertise, but you would never want them to walk away and think, this isn't what I want. Yeah. It's not.
I went with someone else's vision.
Yeah, I went with someone else's opinion.
Yeah. And people will do quite big U-turns when they get to a point where they're like, actually, I want to pull this back a bit or push it forward. And I think sitting with it and understanding it is part of that sort of almost falling in love with the colours within the kitchen.
Would you have any tips or advice to listeners who wants to put more colours into their kitchen but are a bit wary?
I think you should look in interior magazines, like do research, find out what you like and think about why you like it. That's the first thing. Because there's so many examples out there and actually they can help inform you. And also you'll realise if you get a negative reaction to something, that's really handy to know. Yeah. So I would start with that. And also, I guess it's about how much colour you want, what expanse of surface you want it on.
In kitchen, you can bring colours onto the doors, but also on the backsplash, on the countertop, inside the cupboards as well.
It's all up for grabs, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And all to be considered as well. I think we never look at it in isolation. We never think like, well, you're having a green kitchen, there it is, it has to be this.
Yeah.
It has to go with everything else that goes into the kitchen, into the space. And especially with kitchens that are much more open plan and have a sofa in the corner or have they all tie into that space. We don't want to just design a kitchen that exists here, but not in the rest of the space. I think it's good not to follow trends and pretend that you like something. I think you can understand whether you love something and then it sort of doesn't matter whether it's right in terms of everyone else's opinion. I think you could start small if you're drawn to a color, bringing in accessories, bringing in kitchenware that pulls that color out or shows that color off is an excellent way to sort of embrace it and being less kind of permanent, I suppose, in those initial stages. I think loving the color is the most important thing to start with, is not thinking like, oh, it's fine, I can change it, because you never kind of commit to it. And I think you're always sort of skirting around fully diving into what you want that space to be and what those colors to have there.
You can also incorporate colors into even small things that you don't usually think. I did in my design a backsplash that is tiled. You can have a colored grout.
Yeah, actually, yes. There's a few kitchens that have used color grout. You're right. It's such a clever little device that makes such a difference.
It's not expensive. The grout. And you have the wow effect. And
game changing, isn't it? Just that tiny detail, which is again like small, like a butter dish can make a difference. Small things can have a really big impact. Just the appliances.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really good point, having those small things that you know about as well. So when it's your own kitchen, you don't need to see it as the one big picture. Like if you're imagining your photograph, it's how you're going to be in that space, where you're standing buttering your toast, and the butter dish is going to be there, giving you all that joy of that color that you had. It doesn't need to feature as a sort of a larger percentage over the whole kitchen, but when you're there in that moment, it's very important.
What I quite enjoy in our larders, there an opportunity. There's something that people go that it's like their cheeky side comes out in our larder. So perhaps the front of their kitchen is all one colour, or a bit of colour and a bit of wood, and it looks beautiful. And then I photograph so many kitchens where you open the doors to the larder and it'll be like a green or a little flash of yellow. And it's just where people want to have a moment of fun. Yes. And they will use their larder obviously every day. But you can just imagine it, opening the doors to your larder, a colour coming out that's not in the front of the kitchen, and just having a little smile to yourself every day. That's the colour that that's in there.
A personal thing, isn't it? Like bury one person in this larder. These doors and
it makes me smile whenever I'm on a shoot and we open the doors and it's a little cheeky colour. You're like, oh.
Yes. And quite often it's someone else within that dynamic of the family of who, like, I really want to have this bit that's almost to like yourself. And
it's like a message to you, isn't it?
Yeah, and not one that has to tie into the rest of the scheme or be subject to scrutiny from the other 4 or 5 members of the family.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, there's something cheeky about it. I can't explain it. There's a sort of a fun.
In my design, I'm using a lot of geometric shapes as well to bring also some dynamism into the space, but also sometimes people just walk by something they don't see, but if you highlight like on a text with a shape or just one shape somewhere, then you're going to use it maybe more, or you're going to notice it's here.
Yeah, and it pulls your attention, just even if it's at that one moment, and it makes you happy.
I think if you use a non-organic form, a geometric form, there's something that's very arresting about that, isn't there? Like a checkerboard floor in a kitchen is just unbelievable, the impact that can have.
You have so many things that you can interact with. You really have to play with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any success stories of colorful kitchen makeovers that bring more happiness into their life?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot, but there's the ones that kind of come to mind quick. There was a kitchen in Edinburgh that the room was incredible. It had sort of 3.5, 4 meter high ceilings, Georgian proportions, enormous window down the end. But the space felt so sort of fragmented within it that it needed something big and cohesive to sort of pull it all together, to express the beautiful architecture, but to also bring a kitchen that was kind of worthy of the space. So we sort of went from a very plain bitty kitchen, and it was pink and green, and it brought all those tones and hues together and made that space feel as one. And it had an island in the middle and a larder with an amazing pop of color inside as well. It kind of really showed what was possible within a space that, I mean, when you're working with good bones of a building, like you can really pull out sort of amazing feelings, I think.
But it brought a warmth to that space as well, I think. It was a cold space prior to that, I would say.
Yeah.
It didn't feel, but now the kitchen just feels warm, and it's a social space. Our client is a social person who wants to have dinner parties there. And there was something beautiful about the combination of the modern, our cabinetry, with the Georgian interior architecture. It felt as one.
Yes, it married very nicely together.
You could go for old-fashioned style cabinetry throughout and get kitchen cabinetry that mimics Georgian cabinetry. But for me, that's very weird, because what you're creating is a set almost. So you're going to walk into a room that feels like you're going back in time. And it felt like the way this person wanted to live and who she was, that just jarred. So
it's kind of like removing any input that they could have in how they wanted the space if you went down that route.
Yeah, so bringing in modern cabinetry, which is, I mean, it's pared back. It's not, and I think because our materials are soft and our finishes are soft and strokeable, it's not like a glossy white finish. It's a very a sympathetic, gentle materials, but it just brought a confident contemporary design to marry with the Georgian building, so it felt like it was ready for our client's life.
It kind of it worked in the way that she wanted to live it.
And then there's a Victorian villa, and it's a compact kitchen, and again it's got beautiful window at one end of it,
using period architecture.
So there's a tweak of the layout, and then the introduction of this very natural palette that just completely changes how the room feels.
And it feels like, and which is always an ambition of us, that we haven't had a space and we've just sort of plonked a kitchen in there and been like, oh, right, this is now the kitchen because there's a series of covers on the wall and that's it. It doesn't knit together. It doesn't integrate how it needs to, I think.
It's like respecting the shape of the room, respecting everything about it.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Definitely.
Rather than just thinking, we're going to plonk a Pluck kitchen in here. Aren't you lucky you've got Pluck food?
Yeah. And being like, well, that wall can take loads of cabinets. We'll just fill it. And it was really understanding what they wanted to do. And they had very strong feelings of the functions that it needed to carry out as well, which is always very helpful. It's got a beautiful little niche area where they had coffee. And they were really open to new materials.
Textures as well.
It's got a beautiful timber terrazzo worktop, which is beautiful. And that's a good thing about our kitchens, is that they work with basically all types of worktop, which is another way that people can reflect, the things that they like. But it works in this space. It's beautiful.
With amazing marble top.
With mid-century chairs that she wanted to keep. And those pops of colour in that, her red and yellow, but with the green on the side. I mean, the before and afters of that kitchen are very pleasing.
So because you're combining the wood and the colours, then like the wood not only grounds the design, but also brings textures to it, because otherwise it would be quite flat.
It layers it, doesn't it?
I mean, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it was all just single tone or single colour, you wouldn't get that kind of dynamicness that runs through the day and changes and adapts with the light in such a pleasing way.
Let's look at the eco home next. So this is in an eco home in the Kent countryside, and the kitchen was all wood.
It was all wood.
Yeah, they really loved wood.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there was a certain amount of
They inherited
in this
that.
kitchen.
Yeah, they inherited that when they bought it. But
I mean, what's really interesting is how you lose that wood. It's probably up close. There's some very beautiful grain and very beautiful details, but the expanse of it just disappears. It's now sort of a sandy coloured kitchen.
it's like an amorphous block together. Isn't it?
And you lose what would be very pretty material. Wood grain has so many variations and naturality to it that you really want to
Celebrate it.
Yeah, celebrate it and see and be up close to it and engage with it and see details. That's one of the things I love about natural materials, wood particularly, is that you see bits and patterns and grains that you've missed, and you've had this piece for years, and then suddenly you're like, all right, there's this little detail here, and you just can't ever replicate that. So introducing, like when we worked with them, is they wanted some color, but they loved wood. So there's probably about half the amount of wood here, but I think it feels much more of a wood kitchen because you see the wood for what it is in those places, and it's not just kind of peppered everywhere. So it was very sort of a very nice way to introduce all these materials, tones and features without washing them out, I think. And that's the beauty of being able to combine wood and colors together in proportions and in obviously color and material choices that really allow both of them to sing and to emphasize them for the beauty that they have already.
And the view, when you look over the island at Pluck, we use veneers. And it's a sustainable thing because we're using less of the wood, literally less of the hardwood, but also it gives us an ability to have more freedom, I guess. With the grain, we arrange the veneers in-house. It's a graphic thing, it's a visual thing, but it means that you end up with some really, really, really stunning planes of wood.
Like, they're very thoughtful in how it's laid out.
We don't, not fake, like they don't look fake, it feels natural, like respecting the pattern, but enhancing it, but not in a way that abuses it. No,
or in a false way, or in a way of, sort of creating, is using the wood as to the best of what it should be. And that respect is really important because it's such a sort of precious, finite resource. And using the veneers, obviously you get loads out of it, but you're able to then match it and to make it look as stunning as possible.
It's really interesting because you have the earthy tones, and it's like the green and the veneer, it's as if you're walking in a forest. But then you have also the skirting that are pink, and it doesn't look different, like separate from the rest. And then the countertop is staying up everything.
Yeah, the countertop's clever here. It's chunky terrazzo, and it's got the greens. It's got a sort of ochre colour in it, and a pinky, and it really does tie it together.
And they used it only on the island, not on the other runs as well, which I think would be too much and and pull your focus away from kind of this view.
Your gaze is just looking like this.
And equally on the other side, when you're looking out away from the kitchen, it goes straight out into this massive,
they've got stunning gardens,
amazing garden, amazing kind of country view out the back.
I think we are coming to the end of our episode. Do you have a final advice?
For me, it's don't ever choose colour for your kitchen because you think you have to. Choose colour for your kitchen because you have a feeling that it's going to make you feel better.
And I also think like it's not an on-off switch. It can be some colour. It can be, you don't have to go, it has to be colour. It has to be full. It can be elements within it and treat it as that kind of personal experience, I think. And do what you want with it ultimately.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it, I think.
And don't feel embarrassed if you don't want too much as well.
That's true.
Unless you really want a colourful kitchen, no, you might not, and that's fine. Maybe it's just your larder. It's a little smile to you every
So how could the listeners contact you, and maybe if they want to design their colourful kitchen with you?
The best way is to email us. Go to our website at pluck.co.uk. There's an email link on there. Hit contact. Send us an email with as much information, I think. And it doesn't have to be, I say this a lot, it doesn't have to be coherent. It doesn't have to be a well-structured email of like, these are the things we do and don't want. It can just be a sort of an outpouring of all the things you'd love your kitchen to be. And it's such a good starting point to be there. Obviously, you have nice dimensions of the space as well. That helps. But it's about that feeling and about conveying that as sort of as early in that staging as is possible, and not being worried or fretting about how I don't know, using the right language or using the right words for these things. Doesn't matter.
The flow of consciousness.
The flow of consciousness is great.
Yeah.
And we'll understand what you mean. And if we don't, we'll ask. It doesn't have to be a sort of an agonizing email. It's trying to make this process as fun as possible because it should be fun.
And they can take also inspiration from your Instagram account.
Instagram at Pluck LDN. Yeah, there's loads of stuff there.
A good reference as well for being in contact to say what you don't like and do like and what works for you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
And it was a pleasure talking about Colourful Kitchens in your beautiful studio. And thank you. See you soon at the next Color Your Home Happy episode. Remember, just keep the playfulness always in your life. See you soon. Bye.
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 Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe, rate, or review on the different listening platforms. To say hello and get all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at rainbow.shaker. And if you want to check out my services, you can go to my website www.rainbowshaker.com. Thanks again, and I wish you all a very colorful day. See you next time!